So the trust triangle, the concept here being, you know, like a three-legged stool. It only stands if all three legs are strong and even. And that these are the three components of trust. You need people to trust you on all three of these. So logic, authenticity. So logic, I know you can do it. Your reasoning is sound. You know what you're talking about. You know things from the technical or the depth standpoint. Authenticity, I believe you. I believe this is the real you, that you're not faking it. You're not going to sort of trick me into something and then turn and be someone else. This is who you are. And this is, remember, there's both directions from the leader and the people being led. And empathy. I believe you care about me and my success. If you don't care, if people don't think you care about them, right, you can be yourself and not be caring. That's fine. And you can be really good at what you're doing. But if people don't believe that you care about them and their success, they're going to be guarded, right, because they don't know when you're going to pull the rug out from under them. So you are naturally going to be stronger in one of these areas and weaker in one of these areas. It can be situationally dependent, but it tends to be pretty consistent business and personal life, honestly. So the area you're strongest in is known as your anchor. This is where you can really lead from. My anchor is logic. I know the information, I know the details. You've heard me say I like to know one level below what I need to write. That's sort of an indicator the logic is mine.
Let's say if you have an employee that's a real pain in the ass, and you call it that, and then you think that they are a selfish or a bad person or something, how do you approach, because then you wouldn't care about that person, I think. How do you approach that as a leader?
There's a complex, but how do you, so if they are authentically a jerk, I'll use nicer language here since we're being recorded, and you don't like them, how do you, but it is authentic to them. How do you do this? How do you build the trust with them? We're going to hit that a number of times through the class, and let's come back to the question at the end if you don't feel like you got a satisfactory answer. So mine is logic, right? I like to know the details. I like to know a level more. For some of you, the anchor is going to be authenticity. You're always who you are, and you're consistently who you are. For others, your anchor is empathy. You deeply care about others and their success, and they know it, and they feel it. Let me throw that in there. You deeply care, and they know it, and they feel it. There are two parts to all three of these. You can be very strong in one of these. If you cannot communicate your strength in that, it actually doesn't work as your anchor. All right. For the one that we have the weakest in, Anne and Francis have identified that as the wobble, sort of like that, because you got the three-legged stool, right, and it's wobbling a bit. And that one can get in our way. It's the one that's most likely to let us down and erodes people's trust in it. When you walk through each of these, as the wobbles and the indicator, oh, sorry, we are going to walk through each one of these as the wobble and what the indicators are that this is your wobble. What shows you that this might be your wobble? So let's start with logic. So these are the indicators that logic might be the place where your wobble is. And we got a lot of engineers in class. Engineers always sort of look away at this one. Look, though, because as a leader, you want to be able to identify this in other people. That's the other thing about wobbles. Anne and Francis talked about this. About 80% of people get their wobble right. About 20% need other people to help them get their wobble right. All right. So even if you guess yours right, or you sort of feel yours right, other people's input can help you really understand why this is your wobble and what your indicators are, because they see them more than you do. So indicators that logic could be your wobble. You get questions about your ability. Are you really qualified to do this? Right? That would be someone else indicating to you that they see your wobble as logic. You get questions about your data. You present data, and people say, where'd you get that data from? How do you know that data is good? That would be an indicator that logic is your wobble. You don't know the terminology. knowing the terminology is like my secret weapon, is knowing the terminology. This is how I navigate the healthcare insurance system and make sure they pay for everything they're supposed to pay for. Any industry that I have to go in and talk about, if I know the terminology, I can make much bigger strides. Even if I don't really understand what I'm talking about, if I can speak it the way they do, and go so much deeper. So if you don't know the terminology, if you haven't taken the time to learn terminology, logic may be your wobble. You are not asking questions because you're afraid you're going to expose that you don't know what you don't know. Let's remember Mark. All right, Mark's great about asking. He's like, I don't know, tell me. All right, so logic is clearly not Mark's wobble, Mark Seaglock. You're not making mistakes. You're very, very risk averse. That often comes from, I don't have a solid foundation in my knowledge of what we're doing. And so sometimes it's, I don't want to step outside because I don't know where the handhold's going to be to get back because I don't know this stuff. And sometimes it's, I don't even know where the edges are that I know, so I'm going to stay way inside the box, which is going to keep me from making mistakes. And lack of certification, you don't have a degree. Don't have a degree doesn't mean that you have a logic wobble. It's an indicator that that might be the one that is your wobble because you're having an issue with it. Usually it's not that other people have an issue with it. Because if you can prove you know this, they don't care whether you have the certification or not. But it often gets in your own way. And not learning new things, staying away from learning new things. That sort of goes inside that same risk-averse box. It seems like an anti-indicator. If your wobble is logic, wouldn't you think the first thing you would do is, I'm going to go learn stuff? But it tends to bring up the whole, this is, if I try to learn it, I might fail at learning it. And that's just going to reinforce that logic is my wobble. And so people tend to stay away from this. These are indicators that logic is your wobble. Indicators that authenticity is your wobble. Lying. And let's remember that lying includes like exaggerating upsides and really downplaying downsides. Even if those are really real, when you're hiding parts from people and really emphasizing only the good parts, that's going to fall here and it's going to indicate to you that authenticity may not be the strongest for you. Negativity, especially towards others' ideas. Right? Optimists rarely have an authenticity wobble. But when you see pessimism coming in a lot, especially in sort of a competitive feeling, that is an indicator authenticity may be your wobble. Labeling, grouping, othering, setting things up like that, that takes away the complexity of humans. And complexity is part of being authentic. So if you like to take away that complexity, this might be where your wobble is. Not paying attention to others. This is in authenticity, it's a little bit in empathy also, but when you're playing a role, it is harder to continue to play that role when you let all the messiness of other people in. And so you tend to sort of keep them out. Not showing vulnerability, right? Pretty, comes from a lack of confidence in who you are. And competing instead of working together. Feeling that you need to set yourself up as you, right? If you trust in who you are, if you feel authentically who you are, it's easier to work together with people. Was that? Okay, we're good. And then the empathy wobble. Indicators that your wobble might be empathy. Putting your own interests first, often without realizing it. So we're going to charge into this meeting and I'm going to make sure that what I want to say gets said because I'm a key person in this meeting. I know this stuff. There's all sorts of good reasons why you get to there, but that is an indicator that empathy is your wobble. Talking a lot and talking first. In case you haven't figured it out, empathy is my wobble. I mean, I should be talking a lot because I'm up here, but maybe that's one of the reasons I like being up here. Results focused. There's nothing wrong with being results focused. And to get to results, you need to have a focus on results. But if that is, It's an indicator that you are sort of hiding in results rather than in people. All right, you can always push someone to say that data is not good enough as opposed to discussing with them what's going on. So again, these are indicators that this is your wobble. And going along with that, analyzing and sort of almost to the point of analysis paralysis, because analytics do not necessarily include emotions. They sort of stave them off. Being overly procedural and rule following. Procedures are important, rules are important. If that's your focus, indicator that you probably are wobbling on the empathy. You're not allowing the flexibility that needs to happen in the team. And straight up, avoiding personal discussions. If you don't like to have one-on-one type discussions with people, probably empathy is your wobble. So, I want you to take a few minutes now. This is a little cheat sheet of what we just went through. And think about this true online too. How many people do we have online? 7, 8? Cool. You might be counting me also, but that's right. Take a few minutes now. What is your wobble? Remember it. It's going to go on your index card in just a minute. All right, so think about it. Decide, where do I usually have some issues? What might my weakest leg? And your weakest leg may not be all that weak. All right? We're just looking for the weakest of the 3. Is there anyone struggling with what their wobble is? Ruben. Ruben's legs are strong, all 3.
I don't know. I mean, Mom told me I'm perfect.
Well, yes. Yes, yes. No. Do you have an idea? Or do you need a little help?
I'm still thinking.
Okay, that's fine. Wobbles can be, you can be, yes, you can. Can you have several wobbles? You can have situation-dependent wobbles, but it tends to be pretty consistent, but people can. But if you think of these as the legs of a stool, all 3 legs of your stool could be short. You could struggle in all 3 areas, but one's still going to be weaker. All 3 legs could be strong. You're still going to be a little weaker in one. Some of that has to do with experience. Some of it has to do with personality. But you are going to struggle more in one of these. You really are. Okay. Are you good? Okay, of course you are. Ruben, are you good? Good. Well, may be a logic anchor. How are people feeling? Ready to move on? We know where we are here? Okay, we need your index card, please. Draw the triangle. Leave room to write those 3 words. You do not have to draw the star in the middle if you don't want to. But please draw a triangle with authenticity at the top, logic at the bottom, I don't care, one side, and empathy at the bottom other side. Okay, so, yeah, I don't know. Online, I want you to do this too, please. You can just do it on a piece of paper, and you can attach, you can send that picture, please, to Naveen. We'll be using both sides of the index card, so when you send him a picture, please send him 2 pictures, one of each side of the index card. Okay. Does everybody have their triangle? Good. I would like you to put a wavy line, notice I'm using myself, under the one that is your wobble. The wavy line is wobbly. Wavy line under the wobble. Plus sign under your anchor. This is the one you can rely on. All right, this is where if your leadership is not having the effect that you want, this is not the one you're going to explore. You're going to say, this is the one I'm pretty confident in. We're going to start first in this area with the wavy line and see if that's what's getting in the way of the leadership effects that I want. All right, so that should be the front of your index card. Should look somewhat like that. I have a triangle, logic, authenticity, empathy. One of them has a wavy line. It doesn't have to be empathy. It's whatever works for you. One of them has a plus. It's whatever works for you. On the back of your card, please, I would like 2 to 3 examples of when that wobble, so the one with the wavy line, got in your way. Give me specific examples.